So with this segment, what I'd like to show you is a really fun tip on how to load your frame and get everything straight. So right now you can see the backing is loaded on a leader cloth, and the leader cloth allows me to pin the backing, and I have little waste with what I'm quilting. This leader cloth is velcroed to the frame. Now you might have a leader cloth, or you might have an apron, which is fabric that makes your leader cloth. Either way, depending on what you have supplies of or what comes with your frame. So I've pinned the backing to the leader cloth. Now I've got my backing ready, and I'm going to float the backing. So we're going to slide it under the foot, and both the backing and the batting are a little larger than your quilt top, usually 3 or 4 inches larger than your quilt top. So we have our batting floating. Now the next thing we want to do is we want to put the two of them together, and the way to do that is with QBOT. So we're going to go to QBOT, and inside of QBOT you have what's called an X and a Y line. The X line goes left to right, and the Y line goes forward to backward. So you could baste your quilt down the sides with the X line, or the Y line, excuse me, or baste along the lengthwise with the X line. So I've selected the X line, and I'm going to go all the way over to this side of the frame, to the upper right hand corner. I'm going to select the X line, and we're going to do 2-point scaling. And it says upper right, so we've placed it there, and we're going to move all the way down to the other side of the frame here, and you're going to go a little lower, and you're going to click yes for the lower left. We're going to tell it proportional no, because we want to fill that entire space with a line. Go equals move to start will allow QBOT to move to start, and you may have to fine tune it a little bit. This looks pretty good. We could move it closer to the rail if we wanted, or farther away. Don't forget to pull your bobbin thread up to the top. Always good to do. Now you'll probably have to hold your side here while it quilts, but we'll push QBOT to go. It is now going to put a line all the way across our batting, which will allow us to line our quilt up, the quilt top, right to that straight line. So now we know that our backing and batting are adhered together with a stitching line, and we have a straight line that will come in and we'll line up our quilt top once that line's finished. Now this is a straight line. We're quilting at 100% in speed. We could probably speed it up to 250, which will speed it up some to go down faster either way. So while that's going down, we'll just make sure our quilt top is straight, batting is straight, no little ripples as it goes. We're smooth all the way across. We've pressed our top that we're going to put on the backing. This way, make sure I get it the right way. Okay, we're at the end. Now because you're at the end, we could just slide QBOT across and clip our threads because we're right at the end. Now on QBOT it says another overlay or exit. We're going to do an overlay. So we're going to bring it back close to the starting point. We're going to click yes for overlay. Go equals move to start. And then we're going to fine tune it down. So we're going to fine tune it maybe about a 1/2 inch lower. For the moment we'll just leave it sit there, and we're going to lay our quilt top down and line it up with the stitching line. So now we have a straight line across to line the quilt top up with. All the way across. This time we're going to baste. So now we're going to go to our regulator, our Quilter's Cruise Control stitch regulator, and we're going to lengthen our stitch length. And on the side of this it says L and S. So you're going to roll it upward on the one that I'm using to make it a longer stitch length. I'm going to fine tune down just a little farther because we want to quilt in the quilt, not right on the edge. We're going to pull our bobbin thread up to the top before we begin. Once we push the go button on QBOT, I actually am going to go back in and slow the speed down to about 50. That allows me to be right here and line my quilt top up as I go. So keeping it lined up with that line, and this is a nice long stitch we'll be able to take out with the seam ripper or the unsewer when we're done. And when you get really good at this and you've done it a few times, you can actually put that seam line right where your binding goes and you won't have to take it out at all. We're at the end of our quilt. We could stop QBOT now at this time, clip our threads, and begin rolling up the rest of the top and begin quilting. Have fun doing this trick on your QBOT and frame. So we've just showed you how to do the X line with basting your quilt top, your backing, and your batting together and having a registration line to line things up. It's also really important to do the Y basting line along the sides. What that does is it helps you to keep your quilt square. So I've got a centering tape measure here, and I'm going to measure all the way across to the other side. And I measured it earlier, and I know that it is 61.5 inches. At 61.5 inches, I'll know as I roll that I can keep my quilt square. We've already done the basting line down the side, so let's go ahead and we'll do this side over here on the left side of the quilt. In QBOT, when you turn it on, it has quilt record options. We're going to go to quilt, and as soon as you turn it on, the very first thing you see is a test, and that's to help us to know that we're going the right direction with QBOT. We're going to navigate up with the up arrow, and it takes us to the Y line. Now on the Y line, that's the line, stitching line that goes forward and backward away from me. Navigate to start. We're going to do 2-point scaling. We're going to go up here to the upper right hand corner. And now that we've done a few basting lines, we're pretty good at the basting, so we're going to try to keep it within that 1/4 inch of the seam or the raw edge. That way we can keep it in our basting line. So right upper, then we're going to navigate down as far as we can go to the left lower and go over to the left just slightly from where we were. Keep proportional no, fill that space. Now, it says go equals move to start. Well, I could move, I could let QBOT move, but it's not engaged yet, so I could actually move QBOT close to where the start is. It doesn't hover as far. Once I push that go button, now QBOT is engaged. Now, I have a little ruler. I could measure exactly where my 1/4 of an inch line is, so I can move it over so that the needle is going to land in the fabric 1/4 of an inch. The speed, we had just reduced it to 50%. Pull my thread up. So we're going to leave the speed at 50%. That way I can kind of hold and adjust any fabric that we need to as we go right here. Okay, we're going to push the fine tune, and at that slow mode we can just kind of hold. There are no bungees on the side. That'll allow us to keep everything smooth and straight. If you go off, it's okay. Again, this is a basting line. It's a line to help you keep things secure. And again, the more you do this line as you go down your quilt, the better you'll get at it.